If you couldn't be bothered setting cue points for all your tracks, then this is really good news. Rekordbox has now introduced intelligent cue points. So all you have to do is load and analyze your tracks, and then you're going to have automated cue points that mirror your cue point preferences. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you how it works. Does it actually work? Whereabouts I like to personally set my cue points, and I'm going to share personal feedback on whether or not it's worth paying for, as admittedly this is a subscription feature. Okay, so let's do this. So to set auto cues, go to the settings cog inside of Rekordbox, go to analysis, then cue analysis, and then switch on set cue during analysis. Then we have some options. So number one, auto cues, and then I'm going to go into number two, manual cues. So let's start with auto cues. To get Rekordbox to set cues based on your personal preferences, select auto cues and then select if you want to set memory cues or hot cues, and how many cue points you actually wish Rekordbox to set for you. Now, if you're unsure about the difference between memory and hot cues allow you to jump around the track real time, assuring that you play the best parts of each track. So you might be like, I'm going to skip out that bit and go straight to that bit, which is really, really cool. And memory cues are more about mapping potential mix in and mix out points to assure that your transitions line up. Now, if setting hot cues, I would set them on the first beat of all the major changes within the track. And with memory cues, I like to find the major changes in the track, and instead of putting cue points on those changes like we did with hot cues, I actually like to set my cue points, well, for deeper kinds of house where I want time to mix in, let's say 16 bars before the actual mix point. So for instance, right, let's say I want to mix in after the chorus. Instead of putting a cue point on the first beat of the verse or the breakdown or on the outro, I find that point and then put a cue point 16 bars earlier to give myself time to mix in over the end of the chorus. Or let's say, for instance, I want to replace the drop or even do a double drop. Instead of actually putting a cue point on the drop, I would actually find the drop and put a cue point 16 bars earlier to give myself time to mix in artfully. It's a really cool way to mix. So if you are using memory cues, set them for a few tracks and then also drag them into the cue analysis playlist. Now, Rekordbox says it will set cues based on your personal preferences, and perhaps as more updates to the software are released, they'll get better at doing this, as honestly, I found my preferences were often ignored. The concept is you set memory or hot cues in the places that you would usually set your cue points. Then you drag those tracks that you've set cues for into the cue analysis playlist. And then when you start analyzing your tracks, Rekordbox will do its best to match your custom cue point preferences. Now, I've been playing around with this for a fair bit, and I find Rekordbox is really good at setting cues on the major changes, but not so good at setting them 16 bars before the major changes. Now, another way to set the cues is to select manual and then tell Rekordbox to set them every 4, 8, or 16 bars. Now, personally, if you set 8 to 10 cues every 8 bars for pop music or 16 bars for all the house music, you'd have a lot of options to work with. And most of the time, you may get cues not only on the changes, but perhaps even 8 or 16 bars before the changes, giving yourself time to mix in. So 100%, if you're not confused by, oh my God, there's just so many cue points, it is a good option, but you do need to play around and kind of feel what resonates for you. Like, people might have different styles based on how you mix and what parts of the song you like to play. There's also an option to select where you prevent Rekordbox from overriding cue points that you may have already set on a track, and also an option to put a comment next to the cue point letting you know whether or not it's a Rekordbox automated cue, or basically whether or not, if it doesn't have a comment next to it, it's a cue point that you've set. Now, people ask me, can you delete the cue points that Rekordbox has set? And not in a bulk way. You'd have to actually select them and just actually delete them individually. The Rekordbox Intelligent Cue feature is for anyone that doesn't like setting cue points and generally freestyles, meaning they like to jump on the decks with very little to no pre-preparation and they just jam their tracks pretty much straight off the bat. See, even though I love that, I love mixing and getting to know my music through jamming this way, but the issue is that if you're always playing your track from the first beat, you could be waiting for the best parts of each track to kick in and you can lose energy when you play. So with auto cues, I'm given more options on which parts of each song I can play, where I want to start in the track, and it basically means I've got a lot more flexibility and ultimately more control. And it also means, let's say I'm playing at a party from a laptop and let's say I'm taking requests and people ask me to play tracks that I'm not familiar with. As soon as I load that track to my library and analyze it, I'm going to have a lot more cue points to work with, which in my opinion, it does help me to make better educated guesses on where to mix in my track, as the cues will usually be on the big changes. So even if I'm mixing in earlier, I can still identify where I need to have my new track mixed in by, and it just gives me a lot more freedom, a lot more options to work with. Now, the auto cues are also really good for people that may struggle with procrastination, as they give you a starting off point. And then when you're playing, if you decide you want to adjust some cue points, you can always just go in and adjust them manually and just move them around a bit, delete them, redo some based on your own preferences. See, you can also see in export mode whether or not it is a Rekordbox cue as well, and whether or not it's yours, which I find to be really handy. I also feel the auto cue feature is really good if you like to use hot cues to jump around the track real time. See, Rekordbox is very good at setting cues on the major changes. So if you want to skip a section of the song and just keep the energy going, 100% man, auto cue feature is going to save you time, and it means you can start jamming new music straight away. The auto cues are not great for people like me that like to do more creative transitions, like replacing the drop or mixing onto the drop, or even doing mashups on the fly, where it's kind of involving creative mixing that requires specific cues based on specific needs for each track. Now, sure, I have my main mix in and mix out cues, usually 16 bars before the major changes, that will work no matter what track I'm playing. But I also use custom cues based on the way I like to use that actual track to pull off a specific transition that, kind of stands out, that's kind of out of the ordinary. Now, I do dive into generic cues versus custom cues in huge detail in my Club Ready DJ course. So if you're new to DJing, I feel you'd benefit from a more organized approach. Sorry to plug it, but I love my baby. I'll put a link in the description below for my Club Ready DJ course, and also for my free mini course. So check that out. It's pretty cool. So now for the big controversial question, is this feature worth paying for? See, here's the thing, right? Automated cues are free on other DJ software or some other DJ software, right? But yeah, Rekordbox have made this update recently where they've introduced admittedly some really cool features, but many of those features are only available if you're willing to pay a monthly subscription. See, the auto cue feature though is available on their cheapest plan, the core plan. Plus on that plan, you do get access to some new music management features, plus the ability to share and record your mixes, which again, people complain, man, these features should be free, and quite often they are on other software. But the fact is they're not free on Rekordbox, so if you are a Rekordbox user and you want these features, then you're going to have to update to the core plan. Now, all in all, Pioneer are pissing some people off, okay? And many people have chosen or switched to Denon, Serato, Virtual DJ, or Traktor over the years. Yet, love it or hate it, Pioneer is the industry standard in clubs, okay? And that does not appear to be changing anytime soon. So if you ever want to play in clubs, preparing your music for USB in Rekordbox is an absolute must. And the good news is making the jump from a controller to club equipment is relatively easy. And again, explained in full detail in my Club Ready course. So at the end of the day, right, all DJ gear, this is good news for you, okay? No matter what you've got, no matter what brand, they all do the same thing and they do share the same features to be able to mix, okay? So yeah, sure, some gear is cheaper than others, yep. I've personally, been using Pioneer for over 20 years, and I have gear from Pioneer that's over a decade old and it's still going really strong. See, Pioneer gear, in my opinion, is built to last and generally holds its value when reselling. And despite being a little behind on some software features, I find the hardware itself to be some of the best around, and it's easy to learn on, and it's just pretty cool. But anyway, you should follow your intuition and understand that what gear you have or software that you use doesn't matter as much as you think. Like, the important thing, I think, at first is that you're making progress towards your goals. As through action comes confidence, and with a confident mindset, man, there's nothing you can't achieve. So anyway, thanks for your time today. I hope this video is helpful for you. And yeah, man, smash it through. I'm wondering, do you set custom cues? Are you using the auto cue feature? How are you going with that? Anyway, okay, see you guys soon. Bye.